Seems legit.
Hey Legitimates! Welcome back to my channel. This is the final bag I am making in this sewing room. It is Celine by Swoon. It's my version though, so I've done a couple of things differently. I've done what looks like floating handles, so there's no rivets today. I decided to do a bag without rivets because I just never do. So you've got a slip pocket in the front. You've got this that kind of cinches in the sides. You've got a zipper pocket inside and then a zipper top closure like so. So if you'd like to see how I've done this, stay tuned. Alright, let's get started. So I've got all my hardware in my little Lord of the Rings bowl. I think there are still some of these on the website if those of you who missed out or thought they missed out. Now, I am going to start with these because they're on top. These are what are going to be my strap connectors. And I'm going to use my 3/4 inch tape because this stuff is awesome. If you have not yet got some, get onto it. Because it's so wide, it holds everything so much better. Seriously, so much better. I mean, yes, now I have 4 different sizes of double-sided tape, but honestly, worth it. The 1/8 of an inch is for zippers. The 1/4 of an inch is for like skinny stuff. 1/2 an inch is for, well, you could use 1/2 inch or 3/4. I actually just like the 3/4 better. But each to their own. So I'm also going to do a contrasting thread. So this is called Ice Blue, which I thought was quite appropriate considering it's a whole Icelandic, Arctic look. So I'm just going to squish these in half. Now you won't see the ends, so we don't need to worry about them. Now you can either stitch 2 in the center or on the outside. I think I'm going to go for the outside today because I think it looks pretty. And there's something wrong with my bobbin. Can you hear that? I can hear that. It is a brand new bobbin and it already got a lump. I didn't even have to backstitch that time for it to be naughty. It happens. My bobbins are just out to get me sometimes. It's fine. Alright, so I'm going to go both sides. Grab the next one. You could also just stitch down the center. You could not stitch it at all since we have to stitch it down. You could also just use really cool strap connectors from the acrylic templates that I sell. It's just occurred to me I probably should have done that because that would look super cool. They're also big enough that if you own an embroidery machine, and again, I will do this once I've moved, but if you have an embroidery machine, they are big enough that you could put like a small little detail, like what they would embroider on cufflinks. You can get quite small designs from a lot of the places. It will look very cute. Or you could use one of the felty designs. So it's what people stitch onto felt and then cut them out as toys for children. That's what felties are. So they're usually like this big. They would, most of them, not all, but most of them would also fit onto the strap connectors. Not these ones, but the ones from my sets. This is actually the last bag I'm going to sew in this house. How exciting. I've already started packing. All of my vinyl does not fit into one box. I was packing it away this morning. I got about 3/5 because there was 5 pigeonholes and I got 3 of the 5. All right, let's just grab random pieces to sew together. I have done this bag before as a tutorial, so we're going to grab these 2. And then we're going to grab these 2. Now they should be mirrored of each other like this. So I'm going to sew. Which ones do I want to sew first? I think I'll sew the long ones first and then we'll sew the short ones. So I'm going to go to a joining stitch length. I actually don't remember which way it's done in the pattern, but I mean we get to the same spot in the end, so just will be fine. Line it all up. Back stitch. Onto the knees with the straight edges. Stitch and back stitch. Always back stitch, guys. It just locks everything in, so it's not going to come undone on you. Okay, up to a 4 stitch length. I'm liking nice long stitch lengths at the moment for my decoration or decorative stitches. So I'm just going to squish this open with my hand. One day I'm going to get one of those seam rollers. Leave that with me. Not today. I'm moving house. Things will get lost in the post. Alright, so I'm just going to stitch 1/8 of an inch each side, making sure that that is pressed open as I go. And then I'm going to stop, press it open again, stitch down, press it open, stitch down. And off we go again. And back stitch. Grab the next one. Let's do this one as well. So again, I open it up and then just push my finger through there. Usually that's enough to do it. I'm actually feeling it with my right hand. I'm not sure if you can see that, but that whole thing is in fact down and flat. I'm going to cut off the other one so that we're not having the weight. And then we're going to go the other way. The trick with top stitching is you don't want to go too slow and you don't want to go too fast. You want to find like a happy center. And then we've got these cool lines. Then we're going to line up that center seam, and that is the single most important part of this. You will notice if that's out. So I'm going to put a clip on each side. Then I will run clips in the opposite directions to line everything else up. But we care most about that center seam. I'm going to go back to a joining stitch length. Alright, and then before we top stitch, you want to open it out and make sure you got it lined up. Look at that, so pretty. It is worth the extra effort to make sure that that is lined up because it looks amazing. And also don't forget to trim off all those tails as they're all starting to like hang out. Okay, so then we're going to split this one open as well. Now this bit's going to be a bit chunky. If you're on a domestic, maybe cut out this part of the seam allowance for when you top stitch. This machine doesn't need to, but if you're on a domestic, I like to give like little domestic tips as we go. Not everybody can afford a big fancy machine, nor do they have the space. Space for the sewing room was a big reason why buying a house took so long for us, because a lot of them just didn't have enough space for me. And back stitch. There we go. Trim. And so now you've got this cool like crisscross in the center. And I like the contrasting threads, but that's just me. Okay, let's move on to some other parts of the bag. What have we got here? So that's the inside. We don't need that bit. Oh, we can do these two. So this is the lining version of what we just did, the gusset part of the bag. So I can just stitch these together. It just creates less pieces. We all know how I feel about that. Love less pieces. And that was a simple fix. Alright. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually iron this seam flat and open like this. You could iron it, or you could top stitch it, or you could just finger press it like I'm going to do. Right, so that's that bit sewn. The back piece, I haven't put foam on yet because I've got to build the front first, but the back piece is just, it is what it is. So now we need our, that's not it. We need our front pieces. So you should have one exterior and two of these linings, and then we should have one exterior lining by itself like this. So, whoops. Couple ways you can do this. I'm going to do it the easy way. So let's get some zipper tape. Oh, hold on. Right, I'm going with grey with rainbow teeth because I'm using rainbow hardware. And also because I like to do abnormal pairings. It's my thing. I don't like to do what everybody else guesses to do. So we're doing this. Okay, so lay this down. Now, if you want to, you can grab your 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape and run it along here. This is just instead of clips, by the way. Well, mostly. If you always find that your zips get a little bit wavy, I do definitely recommend using this zipper tape, double-sided tape for your zippers. Wipe it on, and I just got to pick the backing off. Sometimes it wants to come off straight away, and sometimes it likes to fight me. There it comes. Oops. So then we're going to take the zipper tape, like this, stick it along that edge, not pulling. You don't want to stretch it. That's how things go wrong. And then I'm just going to chop it off, that like so. We're going to keep that aside. We're going to need more of that later. Then take our exterior piece, put them together, and then stitch. Now I don't like my zipper pocket hidden here, so I will most likely have to trim this down from memory. I think in the pattern you're meant to tuck it under and then top stitch it so that the zipper's hidden. I don't like hidden. I find I want to be able to see it, especially since I'm using pretty zipper tape. Like, I want to be able to see the prettiness. Actually, I'm going to take this off just because I'm going to fold both sides down, so this side as well. Fold it all the way down and then top stitch over both. I know we don't normally do both, but we can in this particular instance. Make sure both my tails are behind us, like so, up to a 4 stitch length so it matches all the other top stitching that's going to be around it. And top stitch and back stitch. Trim your tails. Doo, 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 doo. Bottom half achieved. Now I'm going to take this one and I'm going to put this right sides down. Grab some clips. Like that. And then we also need our backing piece, which is this one. Lay it down on the other side. Add it into the clips, or again, you can use your thin double-sided tape. Joining stitch length. Sew along here, like that, with the back stitch at the end, always. Then I'm going to spin this round and just pull this top up, and top stitch along here. Now this is going to make this particular piece bigger than necessary because of the way I've built it, right? So then the simple solution is just to take this piece, right, line it up, and then we're just going to trim it so it matches. So what you'll probably find is it's going to match with this piece here, and it's just the front two pieces that are different. But that's because I want to see my pretty zipper. Again, you don't have to do it this way. I knew that this was going to happen when I started sewing. I'm okay with it. So, trim along, trim along. Another thing you could have done is sewn all 3 layers together and then trimmed it, if that made you feel better. And by 3 layers, I mean the 2 pockets, not this piece as well. So there we go. And now, let's put a zipper on. So I'm going to crack it at the side here. Slide my zipper on. Now I don't do zipper tabs. You could do zipper tabs if you wanted to on this. Just make sure that they are long enough. I'm going to put the zip in the middle and then lay all the layers down, line them up, and I'm going to start at the top of the zipper. So we're going to close the zipper tape and I'm going to back stitch over it just to make sure it stays where it's told. And then I'm going to sew right along the edge of all the layers. I'm going to go up to the zipper. I'm going to back stitch over the zipper just so it's extra secure and won't crack open later. So you should have caught all your back layers. I've just got a little bit there to chop off, as you can see. Alright, and that is now the front showing your zipper. If you don't want to show your zipper, you just follow the instructions. I like it. I think it's pretty. That's just my opinion though. So now I'm just going to pause the video and go and iron the foam onto the back. Right, the ironing is done for the foam. So let's now make our Tori pocket. I've done a Tori pocket because we all know I love Tori pockets. So much that I named it after myself. So I'm just finding the center of everything because we're going to need it. Center, 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 center. Right, so we fold our Tori pocket in half, and the half that we drew on is the half that goes towards the bottom. So I found the wrong center because I wasn't paying attention. So when you fold it in half, this is meant to be 1/2 inch from the top for anyone that wants to make their own. No objections here. It is 8 by 12 inches, and then you go 1/2 inch down and draw your zipper box. So the half that we drew on comes to the bottom, and we line up where we want it. Now you got to remember that there's going to be another zipper to close here, so you don't want it too high that it gets tucked up under there. On our 2.5 stitch length, I'm going to go into that corner there. I also don't interface this. I decided it's too heavy and chunky and I just don't like to. But you obviously can if you want. I am not the boss of you. Some people like to interface their pockets. I just don't. I didn't interface it on the outside either. So we just stitch along the line of the 2 long sides. We draw the short sides so we can easily see where to start and stop. But I don't stitch them anymore. I know in my older videos I used to, and then I found that this way was better. And so this is now what I do. And if I find a better way along the track, I will probably change to that too. You also need to make sure you trim off your jump stitch. It can distort it when you're trying to turn it through. So I'm going to take some scissors, any scissors will do. Just make a little cut in the middle of the 2 lines. It doesn't have to be perfectly in the center, just eyeball it. Honestly, eyeballing never hurt anybody. And then we're gonna just trim down to the corners, and we're making triangles. I always do 3/4 of an inch to a full inch for my triangles. If you make them too short, they become, like if you just did a really little one, they're really hard to pin back and stitch out of the way. So I always make one nice and long, basically so that they touch the edge of the fabric like that. See how that works? So now, no matter where I stitch, I'm going to catch it. If I did a tiny little triangle, you're going to fiddle with it trying to make it work. So I'm going to push this through. I will iron this as well because sometimes you just need to iron. So you want to make sure this is right on that seam, and then I'm just going to go and iron that down, and then we'll put in the zip. Ironing is done. As you can see, it's lovely and flat now. So we're going to install our zipper onto here. Like that. I like to put it in about 1/3 of the way, and then I'm just going to lay this flat over the top and then come to be in front of the zipper. I'm going to make sure that the teeth are lined up in the middle like that. I use my fingernails and just kind of go each side of it. No, that's not doing anything because the thread came out. Every time. You'd think I'd learn by now to leave a longer tail, and yet I still don't. Alright, try that again. So we line the zipper teeth up, we come in front of the zipper and stitch. Now I'm not back stitching because I will come back to the start. I am, however, going to trim off that giant tail so it doesn't get caught up. Work my way along, needle down, and then when I get right in front of the zipper pull, we're going to zip it all the way up like that, so I can continue around without having weird bubbles in my stitching from the zipper pull. Now, if you've got a skinnier foot on than me, that shouldn't be an issue for you. And I'm just going to go over the first few stitches and then back stitch. So from the back, it looks like that, but from the front, you can't really tell. Okay, so then you should just be able to let the pocket fall, and it falls in half, and then we're just going to stitch. We're going to leave the pocket open at the bottom because this is where I'm going to do my final stitch, and I like to be able to hide it where possible. Makes me happy. Up the other side. Seam allowances on the side actually don't really matter all that much. The bigger the seam allowance, the smaller the pocket. I tend to do anywhere between 1/4 and 1/2, just depending on what I'm feeling at the time. Alright, so that is that pocket done. I am going to open it just so I don't have to remember later. And then we're going to make our central zipper part. So we need some more zipper tape. Now, as always, I'll just eyeball it. So I like to have a bit of a tail, so I'm just going to chop it here. The measurements are in the pattern though, if you would like to use the measurements. And I am going to rewind this up, put an elastic band on it, and put it back in the tub, nice and neat. I like to keep my zippers neat. And the tubs seem to be the easiest way for me. Alright, double-sided tape. I'm going to grab 1/2 inch for this, and I'm going to flip them all over. Now, with this is a continuous piece. See how that? So, when I flip it, I want to make sure this side gets the double-sided tape. It's just so that my pattern sits the way I want it to. It's just something to think about, right? I want my pattern to be continuous, and I want it to sit the right way when the zipper closes. So to do that, this is what we do. So when I flip it back over, no wait, I've put it on the wrong end. So the zipper I want to close over here, so I need this end to have the double-sided tape. I just did that totally wrong. See, and this is why I double check myself. I mean, you can just peel it off and put it on the end. It's not a big deal. Right. Now that I've done that the correct way. These ones didn't matter because it's checkers, and checkers aren't directional. So I'm just going to really smush that on there with my thumbs. I am both heating it up and pressing it down. The friction makes it warmer and therefore theoretically stick better to be able to get the backing off easier. Doesn't always work, but 9 times out of 10 it does. But I'm just going to use the ruler on the table and fold it down to there. And then I just want to make sure that that's going to fit and it's going to be fine. So I'm going to fold them all down to the same. I'm folding mine to 9.5. I actually don't know what size are in the pattern. I am guessing at this point. I have made so many bags now that if I haven't cut out a pattern piece when I originally did them, because I've got MDF templates for this that my husband made me on a jigsaw, actually. He did a great job. He cut them slightly bigger and then sanded it down. Unfortunately, he is camera shy when it comes to this and won't let me video him making stuff. It also could be because he swears a lot when crafting. Alright, so they're all folded now. We're going to take our zip and we're going to split it open and we're going to do that thing where we pull it down and stitch it. Now, I've seen recently people like to use a stapler. By all means, if that's your thing, go right ahead. I don't even own a stapler, so probably not going to be doing that. Although I could buy one and see how it goes, I suppose. Try it out for all you at home, playing along. So you just want to make sure that the zip is even. That's pretty much the single most important part of doing this, is make sure that they stop evenly. Because if they don't, we'll have problems later. And that's why I haven't separated them yet either. I need to make sure that they're going to stay where I tell them to and be even. Now you can always go back and re-stitch or fold it more or whatever you need to do if they aren't even. But mine are good. So now you can separate the zip. I know this freaks a lot of people out to do it this way, but what can I say? I like to freak people out. So again, I'm going to bring these back and I'm going to figure out where I want my zipper tapes. So I want that one on that edge, like that. And I want this one on this edge so that it's closing over here and that it will be up the right way. Okay, so that's how I want it to be. So then from here, you can just flip these so they're right sides together and pin it down. That's the easiest way to work that out, if you've ever wondered. Lay it out in front of you, put it all together, and then just flip the zip so right sides are touching. Because then, once we've stitched it, it will still sit the same way. And that is honestly the easiest way I've worked out how to do this. When it's non-directional, it doesn't matter. You don't have to put so much thought into it. But I want it to be pretty. So now that I've got those two together, I'm going to put this one and make the zipper sandwich. But I'm going to line up the folded over edge because it's very important that they line up. And if the other end doesn't line up for whatever reason, that's okay, because we're going to stitch over that end and it will end up being even. And then ta-da, problem solved. So let's do this one. So this is going to go here. So we're going to flip it so that right sides are touching. Again, grab a whole bunch of clips. And then clip our way down. Like so. And then grab this one, put it right sides together, and then I'm going to again start from the folded edge so that that lines up and work my way backwards. The other thing you can do is do this end and then do this end, because they're all meant to line up if you lined them up perfectly, and then you can just add all of this into the clips. I mean, you can do it a bunch of ways. My way is not the be all and end all. Please know that. You might find something that just works better for you. So I'm going to start at the folded edge on this one, and I'm going to stitch and back stitch, but I'm not going to go off the fabric. I'm just going to go all the way to the edge. And then I'm going to use my fingernails to hold it all in place so it behaves itself. And then when we get to the end, we're going to sew over like that, and then back stitch because we always back stitch. And then I can grab this one, and now we're going to do the opposite. So I'm going to start at this end, over the zipper tape. Now if you've used metal zipper tape, this is not the installation process for you. We don't ever stitch over metal zippers. You'll need to put like some stoppers and stuff on. I don't use metal zips purely because I'm lazy and this is quicker. I can see a need for metal zips maybe in an all leather man bag. I can definitely see how that would like make it feel more manly and classy or whatever. But to be honest, I don't get a lot of men orders, so I don't really need to worry about it. Alright, so I'm chopping out that corner on both of them. This will theoretically help it sit better when we turn it through. I'm also going to go up to a size 4 stitch length because we're about to top stitch and be decorative. So now, push the corner out as best you can. It does come out pretty well. Now if you want to, you can iron this because that edge there needs to match up. So what I'm actually going to do without clips, this is the way to do it without clips, turn it over so the lining is facing up so you can see it. And then I'm just going to stitch just the lining-y part like that. And then we'll top stitch from the other direction. But what this does is it just makes sure, because they are the same size, they should line up. And if they don't, it's because something's being naughty somewhere. So I can just pull these like this. And then backstitch. And so now they line up. So from here, you can now pull this out. You can iron this crease if you want to. You've got a few options. So I'm going to start from the raw side so we don't see our back stitching. And I'm just going to top stitch. Now I always do that edge in a bit of a curve because that's what it looks like. Top stitch down. You have to make sure you top stitch this end as well, otherwise it'll be open. And now we can grab the other one, and so this one will start from the opposite way, because that's just how it works out. Around the curve, back stitch. Done. Now theoretically, your pattern should then line up. Ta-da! I mean, so we've got a penguin head there and a polar bear head, but you get the idea. Alright, always start with our zipper pocket because I like my zippers to close in the same direction. That's just my thing. So, I need to find the center of this, and I can clip it because we're going to hide this in. And I already found that other center before because I knew I needed it. And we're just going to clip that together, and that way it's going to close in the same direction. Oops. 1 and 2. So now this zipper will close that way. I'm going to take this, I'm going to fold it over, and I'm going to clip it to itself, and that will stop it getting in my way later. I also like 2 clips. One tends to be a bit more flimsy than I'd like. So, now I'm going to take one of these. Now this I could have done out of any fabric, but I like to do it out of the lining. You could have also done it out of like a vinyl. World your oyster. I'm also going to put a clip right on the end there so it behaves. And then this side, again with a clip so it behaves. And then the rest just get added to that piece like that. Joining stitch length of 2.5 and stitch, back stitch. I like to hoon on my machine. I know it's not advised. I do it anyway. Whatever. Right, now we've got our zipper panel in. Other one. So we're going to repeat the same process. I'm just going to chuck that over there. So we'll need to find the center top and center bottom for later. Center top's for now, center bottom is for later. When I say later, I mean like next. But still, worth it. And then again, we're going to take this and we're going to fold it in half. We're not worrying about the tail. The tail's irrelevant. Just the actual panel, because we want the panel to be centered. Trim off a little triangle. And then I'm going to clip that in the center. I'm going to clip this edge, and then I'm going to deal with that tail because it's already annoying me. Right, 2 clips. One there, one there. Hold it out of the way. Trust me when I say that is one of the best decisions I've ever made. Especially when it comes to this stuff, because sometimes they just like to be stubborn. I don't know why, it's just a thing. Right, other end. Steal that clip off there, probably don't need that many on that. It's not going anywhere, it's a dead straight line. Okay. Same seam allowance as before, or you're going to have a wonky zipper. It does feel pretty important not to have a wonky zipper. Just a thought. And I just ran out of bobbin thread. Perfect timing as always. Okay. Beautiful. So that's our linings done. I already did another bobbin because I knew this would happen. Most bags take between 2 and 2.5 bobbins. Really big bags take 3. And you'll get a feel for your machine, and even though you've never made a bag before, you'll be able to look at it and at least roughly guess how many bobbins you'll need. Okay, so let's grab our giant middle piece, and I'm going to fold this. Oh, it's already folded open. Look at that, it stayed there. And I'm going to find the center bottom. Now this is non-directional, so I don't need to worry about which piece I'm putting on which side. If yours is directional, please think about that. That's why I'm bringing it up. I'm making the clips face the gusset like always. So I've done the flat straight bottom part, then I'm going to come up to the top here, line that up, and then work my way down. I want this to point downwards on both sides. Please think about that. Right, and then we're just gonna move around. I actually forgot how much I love this bag. It is a big bag. It is like a really big tote, chuck everything in and off you go, but I like it. Okay. So that's one side. Then we're going to come back up to the top on the other side. Line up that top edge. Clip it. Work our way down. Again, this pushes down towards the bottom. Please don't forget to do that. It is pretty important. If you have one going up and one going down, the seam allowance somewhere will sit funny. And I don't like it sitting up. I always like to push my seams towards the base. I don't know why, I just personally think it sits better. Alright, clip, clip. So now all of that is clipped on. Now we're just going to stitch around. So stitch and back stitch. This is a new bobbin, so let's hope it doesn't misbehave. Although I think we're good. That never happens, let's be honest. You also want to make sure there's no pinches when you go around this corner. I'm about to have one, so I'm stretching it out so I don't. Because I don't want one. Straight bits are always quicker. Alright, happy days. So now that I've done it, we're going to check and make sure I didn't get any pinches anywhere, of which I'm lucky and I didn't. And if we did, I would show you how to fix it. I have done that in the past. Nobody's perfect and sometimes I get carried away. It's so faster than I should. So I'm just going to now trim off all of that seam allowance so the bag sits nicer when we're finished. And if you don't believe me that this is a thing, make a bag and cut all this off, and then make the exact same bag and don't cut it, and then tell me which one fits better. Because I promise it's this one. When the bag's trying to tuck into the corners, it's no longer fighting all this excess fabric. And that is why we cut it off. And we use zigzag scissors because things are less likely to fray and misbehave. If you don't have them, it is okay. You can just use normal scissors. I just, where possible, prefer to use the zigzag ones. So see, we've got half. Let's do the other half. However, we're going to leave a big chunk in the bottom open because it's just going to make my life easier. And I always like to do it on the zipper piece. I do actually usually install the zipper piece first, but it's just not what was on top. So that's why I didn't. So I'm actually going to take that clip off so that I don't accidentally do it, because that has been known to happen. Sometimes I get carried away with myself and forget, and then I have to unpick it. And we all know how I feel about having to unpick. It's better to sew slower and not have to unpick, zoom through and get stuck unpicking things. Especially when technically I'm on a little bit of a time crunch and I probably shouldn't even be sewing this. I should be packing. I literally move in less than a week, but I like sewing. And this bag is fabulous. So I've decided, while doing all of this, that I am going to turn this into a set, and it's going to have 3 or 4 pieces. I haven't decided yet. So it will be this bag, it will be a wallet, and I'm tossing up between Strumpet by Seems Legit, which is mine, and the NCW. Haven't decided which wallet yet, but it'll be one of those two. And then I'm going to do a Devon pouch. And then I might also do a matching like glasses case, like a fabric-y one. And then have it as a 3 or 4 piece set. Either or. I also just put all of those clips on the wrong way, but we'll survive. So, stitch, back stitch. Round and round and around we go. Back stitch when you get to the straight bit. We're going to leave like a really big chunky amount open. It's going to help, I promise. The bigger the gap, the easier the bag is to turn. And this should still be pretty easy to close shut again. We're going to start there, and we're going to stitch, and we're going to back stitch. And then we're just going to cruise around the curve. And back stitch. Okay. Now, I am still going to zigzag scissors the bits that we've sewed. Sewn. Sewed probably isn't a word. That was terrible English on my behalf. These scissors are out to destroy my sanity. They're blunt, for anyone that's wondering. I have had them a fair while though. I just need to sharpen them. And apparently you do that by cutting aluminium foil. Over and over and over. So you fold it over and then you just chop it, and it's supposed to make them sharper. Alright, so that's the inside. Fabulously done. Let's go back to the outside real quick. So for the outside, we have these little bits. I love this part of the bag. Makes me weirdly happy. So I'm just going to put double-sided tape on one side. You'll notice I'm not putting it in the center. The side works better for the size that these are. Right, like that. Then I'm just going to peel the backing off, fold them in half, and top stitch down that edge. So we're going to go up to top stitch length, right, fold it in half. So I've used 1/4 inch for this. I actually think I've used nearly every size for this today. Worth it. All right, now it's twisty already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rub it on the edge of the table. And it makes it less twisty. It's not perfect, but that's all right. So if we leave a nice long tail, I can tie this off at the end, make it neater, or, well, one end needs to be neat. The other end goes into a seam and it doesn't matter. Right, so the back stitched end can go into the seam because we also still need to put on our hardware, which I will do in a minute after I've stuck this and stitched it. Now, the little 1/2 inch swivel clips that I used to sell, that a lot of you snagged up in the closing down sale, would work fine. I still have a bunch of these ones. They're like a really weird size. I bought like a random pack of different colors, so I have a small drawer full of them, which is fine. So again, I'm leaving tails at both ends and back stitching in the middle so that I can, actually I could just tie this one off, because we still need to attach the hardware. And this isn't big enough for a rivet, otherwise I would use a rivet. But they're really tiny. Okay, trim off that. So, on the one end, we're going to put that. And on the other end, I've got this really small, like, split ring. It is gold, but the gold goes with the gold in the rainbowness. So I'm just doing that. So we slide it on, fold it over. You just want to have, like, a little bit. Nothing major. And then I'm going to line it up, preferably straight. Stitch, back stitch, stitch, back stitch, and that's it. You just want like a little bit. So this will hold in the side of the bags if you want your bag to look smaller, is the idea there. So again, on we go. Line it up. Stitch. Nope. Thread came out. Of course it did. Every time. Oh, I don't think I've dropped anything this video. That's a bit exciting. I've also probably just jinxed myself and watch it happen now. And that just did a giant's bird nest on the back, which is not at all what I wanted. At all. Go away. Better. I will melt that down when I've got a cigarette lighter. Mine is currently missing, but I can do that at the end, so that's fine. Let's take our exterior, and I'm going to put one here, and I'm going to make it so that the folds face up, because then right sides are together. And right on that seam, I am going to tack it down. Like so. Just a little bit. Well within the seam allowance. And then we're going to do the same to the other end. Alright. Line that up. Right in the middle. Tack it down. Like that. Voila! So we should be down to like what? The handles, front and back, and the gusset and the lining as a whole piece. So Now's the time to install these. So how I'm going to do it is I'm going to put this about 1/3 of the way. I'm going to fold this to the center and then fold that up. And that is going to make it so that there's no raw edges seen from the outside. Now to hold that in place, my 3/4 inch tape is going to be my best friend. Right, so we're just going to put all of that there. Peel off the backing. And so then we fold that down, that up. And I'm still going to add a clip just in case. One down. Now you've got a couple of options. You can actually just put rivets in these if you want to. Or you can stitch it on. I'm actually sitting here contemplating which one I'd like to do. If you're going to rivet it, you do 2 rivets. And if you're going to stitch it, you just stitch in the original holes. Or you can stitch and rivet. I mean, I'm not the boss of you. Do it all. So put this on and then fold them into approximately the middle. Now the reason we fold them approximately in the middle, so if you're going to do rivets, you do one there, and catch both sides. Just if you're wondering why we do that. The other option that you have is if you've got strap ends, you could put one strap end on and then just fold this down so it like hangs down. That would be super cute. I mean, I have a lot of ideas on how to do the same thing. My brain's just busy. Always busy about all the different things I could do, which is why even though I make the same bag over and over, sometimes it's just got like some differences. Makes it unique. Sometimes I forget to write measurements down, and so it's like a one-off moment. Okay, happy days. So now I just got to add these on. I'm pretty sure the pattern actually says to add them to here, like at the seam, but a little bit in probably also wouldn't hurt. You don't want them too close in though, because the bag does get quite wide. But the pattern says, let's fold this in half, find the center, like always. And same with this one. Fold it in half, find the center. Now, if you wanted to as well, you could have made this not be in the seam allowance. I didn't do that, but that's right. So, line it up in the center. My gusset doesn't have a right and a wrong way, so that doesn't matter. We can just, off we go and put it on. Now, you're going to notice that I'm going to use a lot more clips on the exterior than the lining. That is because foam likes to just be a bit naughty and get in my way. So, generally speaking, you need more clips to make sure it stays where it's told. Right, tuck it in as a 3D object. I don't know if you can see me doing that. Lots of clips on the curve. The more clips that hold it in place, the less likely it is to shift and be naughty. Right, and then we come up to the other side and we're going to do the same thing, work our way down. Still haven't decided if I want to stitch or clip. I think I'm, or rivet. I think I'm going to go with stitch, I think. Alright. Working around that curve. Again, using lots of clips so it doesn't shift. So that's one side that's now on. Now that I think about it, I think you're supposed to do these two sides separate, but that doesn't matter. My way still works. And this just proves there is more than one way to make pretty much any bag. up your clips as you go. Oh, that's about to pinch. So, I refuse to let it. You can, in fact, fiddle with it so it doesn't. It just takes an extra minute, that's all. So that was going to pinch, and I saved it. You just have to kind of maneuver until there's not a pinch anymore. It does happen, because it's evil. Right? Did that pinch in this side? No, it just looked like it did. So no pinch there. No pinch there. This would also look really, really cute with piping. Alright, I'm going to grab my vinyl scissors, which apparently just want to be loose. I'm so disappointed in these. Ever since they came loose, they don't stay shut. Like, look. See how far apart that is? That's bad. That means they won't work as scissors. It's driving me up the wall. I don't understand why they won't stay together anymore. I have to keep tightening them. Alright, trim off this. See, they've already loosened. Evil. I wonder if I could take them to a scissor man and they can fix the problem. It's driving me crazy. I can't see, look, already loose. See how the gap's back? I don't know what his problem is, but needs to stop it. I just want to be able to cut things. That's not an unreasonable request. Okay, there's one side done. Alright, let's grab this. Put that, so it's meant to be kind of here. I am going to measure it with a ruler because I want them all the same. Alright, so right there is where I'm at. And that just shifted, so I don't know why I bothered. You open this out, I'm just going to press the seam open. Line it up along the seam right there. And forward, back. And back a few more. Alright, and then I'm just going to jump straight over to the other side. Needle in, take off that clip. It's no longer required. Take off all of that, and that's still quite cute. Quite cute indeed. You also want to pull on that a little bit, make sure it's not going to fall off. Adorable. And I'm still attached. And there's tails going everywhere. See, this is what happens when you don't clean up your tails. Move the clips so I don't knock them over. Scissors away. Alright, let's try that again with the other side. So I'm going to grab another one. I'm going to grab my ruler. You can put them however far up or down you deem fit. I'm just putting them where I've decided. But I am not the boss of you, and there are measurements in the pattern, as always. Okay, and then down the bottom to the other side. And I can just trim off that jump stitch later. Trim. Alright. done. So they just look like they're floating a little bit. And I really like that. Just do it a bit different. Okay, other side, so we bring our clips back. And again, I'm just going to clip them on the straight bit, and then I'll stop and go the other way. And then flip it around to the side. I definitely think my way of building it was easier. Because if you do it the other way, which you totally can do, and I'm pretty sure I've made it the other way before, but otherwise you've got to top stitch these perfectly with the whole bag attached, which I think makes it trickier, which is why my brain automatically did it this way. But you can make it the other way. I'm sure I've done a video with the original way. This is just the Tori way. You might not do it either way. You might have another completely different plan. And that's fine too. You can see the bag's really starting to take shape now. Oh wait, that way. Towards the gusset. Work our way down. Over the zip. Clip it together. The corner always gets a lot more clips. So it should all just fit in beautifully. And if it doesn't, it could be because your seam allowances are out. Well, there, technically, in the middle. Alright. So let's do this, and then we'll attach the other bits, and then we just put the lining in and make the handles. I've gone back to a joining stitch length. That nearly twisted. Tried to be sneaky. You can also see I'm constantly pushing this back because I want my seam to be pretty and not overworked, and I don't want lumps. Trim off those tails at the other end, get rid of that because it's gonna probably be in my way, and then check to make sure there are no pinches. There are not. Deal with my annoying scissors. I've got another pair somewhere, they're just not here. I may have already put them in a box, who knows. I did start this morning, I just started scooping things up and putting them into boxes. I will sort it out at the other end. No matter how neat I put stuff in the boxes, it's still going to get all higgledy-piggledy as I pull it out. So I've decided that, you know, with the exclusion of like putting this in without a Ziploc bag or something, they can all just go in a box and I'll deal with it at the other end. Oh! My other pairs that I've even had longer don't do this. I don't understand. Alright, trim it all off. Boom. It is looking fabulous. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it looks awesome. Okay, so we're going to do this again. We've got 2 more to do, but luckily for us, like this side, because there's no foam here, it's quite flexible. If you're going to make it out of fabric, I do suggest a relatively stiff interfacing. But vinyl, I just leave it without interfacing. You don't need foam. You kind of want it a bit floppy, if I'm honest. You know what? I'm just going to move it again. I should have just come over and then lined it up. Grab your ruler. Just make it the same as the other side. You never want your handles and straps and stuff too far down. because it will out of balance your everything. And what I mean by that is if you put yours more than, let's say, halfway down, you'll find that your bag's out of balance and is likely to tip over, which is what nobody wants. And if you're wondering why I'm hand cranking, it's because I couldn't get close enough to the thing otherwise. Now, obviously, if you want to, you can do this the original way where you do the whole square around or a crisscross or, you know, whatever floats your boat. I just like the fact that they kind of look like they're floating. It's just another different look that you can do if you want to. Try something different, make them look like they float. You can also stitch them like this and then put rivets in. I mean, world's your oyster. Alright, line it up, bring it under, stitch it down, off we go. I'm just going to crank up a little bit closer because I can. Pretty much why? Then jump to the other side, so I'm just going to curl up this bag a little bit more so I can get to the other side. Trim off the jump stitch because it was in my way. I know you can't really see what I'm doing, but I am trying my best to describe it. Trim off that tail so I can move around. There's also a jump stitch that kind of got tucked in there. Trim that off. And see, now they look like they're floating. So we're going to push them all down so that they stay out of the way like that. And then we're going to take our line and turn it right sides out. Then we're going to look at this zipper again. So here's the front of the bag. This zip closes that way, so I want all the zips to close the same way. So we're going to put it in that way. So this will close up there with that. Everyone's happy. So from seam, the seams here, match up the seams here, clip her on, and then we're going to do that to all the seams. And also push this zipper panel down so it's out of your way. I'm all about it, keeping things out of your way. Now, if you want to, we can clip here together. Right, like this, that, and that. Oops, like so. So then we're going to grab this opposite side and we're going to do the same thing. Each side of the seam to hold it in place. And then everything else should just line up. Now, that's obviously not always the case, but it should. And again, push that zipper panel down, otherwise it gets in the way. Make sure this is all laying flat, and then just add clips as you see fit to hold all the layers together. Right, and then we're going to do this side. So this does take a lot of clips because it is quite a big opening. That's kind of the point of the bag though. Right, clippity, clippity, clip. Now, if you're struggling to do these side pieces, fold the lining in half and find the center so you can line the center up with the center seam if that's being a bit of a struggle for you. Okay. Now, you just start wherever, doesn't matter. I'm going to go the whole way around. Now, generally speaking, I like to do 3/8 top stitching. I find it easier around curves and stuff. Because it's top stitching everything together, you can actually pick whatever seam allowance you want. I don't know if anybody's told you that before. Probably not. Most people tell you have to follow the pattern. I find patterns more of a guideline than a rule. I'm also a little bit of a rebel though. Let's be honest, I don't ever really do things normally. But I do have a pattern for a video of this bag way back when. I think my machine's still grey actually. So you can follow along with that one if you prefer the original method. I like this way better though. You can go look at the other one and compare the two. And then you can just take bits that you like from each video and do it the way you want to do it. Also, a very real option. Alright, back to the start. I'm going to go over a few stitches and then back stitch, and that locks in all of them. Evil scissors. I'm going to cut out everywhere there is a seam. Especially do this if you're on a domestic, right? Because we're still going to top stitch, and it is so much easier if you cut this crap out now. Right? I know it doesn't look like much, but I have essentially now made, oh, I missed some, all of those sections easier to do. So there should be 6 chunks you cut out. The sides of where there, and then where the vinyl meets the foam. So look how big this bag is. So we're just going to go into this hole here. It's not a huge hole, but because there's no foam on the vinyl sides, it should, and I say should, turn through relatively easy. Alright, you just tuck it all in, gently pull on it all. This looks so pretty. Not just the bag shape, but all my colour options. I like my colour options. And I like that I did a grey zip. White would have been the obvious choice, or a blue. I don't want to do obvious. Alright, so now that it's out, I'm going to pull through the lining through the zipper pocket to just stitch it up. Because we're out, I'm good, I haven't missed anywhere. Go along this whole edge and make sure that nothing's missing. And you haven't, like, before you seal it up, make sure that the outside's good to go. Okay, and then zigzag scissors. Trim off that excess. You can still do it now. Worth it. Alright, rubbish. Shove that in. Then I'm going to do up the zipper pocket. So I just put my fingers to each seam, pinch it underneath, use my pointer fingers to tuck under the raw edges. Now you can tuck it under as much or as little as you want. That is your choice. Alright, stitch and back stitch. I've also forgot to grab a zipper end. I've just looked in my hardware bowl and realised I've forgotten. That's alright. I can deal with that. Trim off the tails. I've also got a weird little loop going on there. Trim that off. Now, I personally prefer to top stitch this bag inside out. You don't have to do this. You can top stitch it the other way if you want to. But because it's easy enough to turn inside out, that's how I want to do it. Alright, and then I want to roll out all of this seam, and I'm also going to use my pliers to squish all of the intersecting points so that they behave themselves. And this little doodad here, I'm going to stitch it down. So again, I'm going to squish there. I want to squish it in, because the whole point is that it's inside the bag, and if you top stitch it up, it tends to float and stick out, and I don't like that. So that's just, again, my personal preference, but that's what I'm doing. And we all know I don't tend to do things unnecessarily, unless I just want it to be pretty. Alright, so you're going to pull out all of this seam. You can put clips all along here. I'm not going to bother. I reckon I've got this without it. Again, crush any intersecting points because it'll be easier. Fold that down and then squish that. If you don't squish it, it's going to be really thick. Squishing it, I promise, makes it better. And I just put a clip there because it is prone to move. Alright, last one. Pull it out, roll it over, and squish. Okay, you start with from wherever you want. I'm on a size 4 stitch length because I like to be decorative. I am also not going to backstitch. One of those rare times again. Because we're going to go all the way around, there's no need to backstitch. Needle down, reorganize the bag. Did you hear that? It barely registered a different sound when stitching over that thing because I squished it. It's literally because I squished it. You should invest in some leatherwork squishy pliers if you make a lot of bags. I promise it'll be worth the money. And they're less than 20 bucks, pretty sure. Unless they've gone up a lot in the last recentness, they are under $20. Sometimes you can get free delivery on them. So, I mean, worth it. I'm just rolling this down so that the seam is where I tell it to be and not where it wants to be. I'm actually just going to grab a stabby thing because this little bit here doesn't want to come out the way I want it to. So I'm just going to pull it out with the stabby thing. Stabby thing being a sewing awl for anyone that needs to know that. I just call it my stabby thing. This was a beautiful gift all the way from America and I love it. It's even got a thing so I can clip it onto stuff. Alright, take that off. And now we're nearly back to the start, so I'm just going to go over and backstitch. Trim off all the tails that are here. And then we turn the bag inside out again. Because it really just was easier trimming it that way. So the idea of these little bad boys is we pull them in, clip it together, and it pulls those sides in a bit to make it more or less throaty. So that they're not totally flipping out. So you can actually make it shorter and have it come all the way in so it's like super skinny at the top. I like to give it a little bit of room to move and breathe, but that's just me. Alright, so I'm going to undo that. And then I'm going to take off the clips off here. And I'm going to line up this zip. Put it on half of one side. And then bring the other half in. Push. Zip. Make sure it's even. It's the main thing we care about there. And I'm going to have to go get a zip end. Okie dokie, I've got one. So, we're going to take the zip end and I'm going to fold it down so it's a triangle. and then you just shove the end on. Now the original video I did actually has a fabric or a vinyl version of this. So if you don't have zipper ends, you can just make a square of vinyl and stitch that on. That's totally fine. Then we're going to put that in, and I love my electric screwdriver. It is a game changer. Okay, so then that's that on. So now it opens up enough that you can get all the way into the bag. And that's why we have a bit of a tail, but it's not so long that it's going to kind of annoy you, and then it can just kind of fall into the bag like so. All that's left now is handles. So I have just got just vinyl handles. I'm just going to fold them in half just for something different. So I'm going to put this is my 3/4 inch zipper double-sided tape, which is rippable. I keep forgetting because I'm so used to the other stuff, but you can actually just rip it off. And it's not that tricky either. Alright, put that along the edge, rip it off. I love it. Okay. So instead of putting the join in the center like I usually do, I just really feel like doing weird stuff today. So I'm going to fold this in half instead. Oh, my bin man's finally coming. He's a day late. I don't know what happened. Alright, so I'm just folding it in half. I'm going to have the join on one side. Another really cool thing I could have done is put some piping in there. Would have looked awesome. If I had to put piping on the bag, I'm going to do piping handles one day soon. You watch me. Alright, stitch, back stitch. Zoom along the edge, back stitch, swivel, jump to the other side. Back stitch, and let's do the other one. Even though the fold to the center and the fold in half are the same amount of vinyl, I don't know why these ones feel skinnier. They just do. I mean, I could always edge coat this edge as well. You could have piping sticking out of it. You could do a lot of things. You could just leave it. I'm just going to leave it because there's nothing wrong with it the way it is at all. And to keep with the whole no rivet thing, we're not going to use any rivets on this bag. I don't know why I've decided that. I just have. So normally I would just rivet the handles on and off I go. We're actually going to like stitch them like we did the other bit so that it looks like they're just floating. Because I don't know. I think the ice has made me go like floating ice, and my brain's just on its own warpath, let's be honest. It's doing its own thing. Right, jump to the other side. Line her up, stitch, back stitch. And off we go. Did I just run out of bobbin thread? Oh, I did. Well, isn't just that the worst? Alright, fresh bobbin has arrived, so I'm just going to stitch and back through that first hole. Now's the tricky bit. You've actually got to try and line up the original holes. I mean, it's not that tricky, if I'm honest, but still. Okay, so let's do some cool floating handles. I know they're not really floating. It's just what I've decided to call them, apparently. So, we're going to go up and in, and I'm just going to work out how much I'm going to fold over. There, like that. And I'm going to have them pointing to the inside because, you know. And I'm also having that join on the inside as well. So in to there. And then over. 2 clips to hold it in place, and then we're just going to check. And yeah, that looks good. It looks good. You can't really see because of the angle of the camera. But if I move it, you won't see me stitch it. Alright, move that again out of the way. So I want to stitch it from this side because I want to see the nice stitching. And I want to try and line it up in the original holes. Alright, so stitch, back stitch, and then down we go. One side. I think I did pretty good, to be honest. Other side. Done. Trim and trim. Now they just kind of look floating. I don't know. I like it. Might not be your thing, and that's okay. Oh, wait, let go. You could just use rivets. Rivets would be the quicker option, but I'm not all about quicker. I've got like a floating thing in my brain because of the ice cubes that float. And I'm sure nobody else would have thought floating ice cube, let's do floating handles. And that's okay too. My brain works in weird ways. I am aware of it, I promise. I'm going to trim off all the tails at the end, I've decided. Because it just seems like the easier option. Alright, deal with all that at the end. Let's do the other side. I also could probably unzip that. It's going to make the bag a little bit more maneuverable. So again, we need to measure with a ruler so that they are all the same height on all of the ones. It is important to have it all the same. Otherwise, one handle will be longer than the other. Alright, so I've got the join on the inside and I've got the join on the inside. These are the things you just need to think about when you've got handles like this. Alright, join it to there. Happy days. Like I said, I will trim off all of the tails in a minute. Like that's got a lot going on, but once I trim it off, it'll look fine. It just looks a lot now. Alright, melt that down a little bit, should be fine. Okay. Flip it up and over. Start here. There. Trim backwards, forwards, backwards, and trim. The back looks a bit messy because of the jump stitches. Don't worry about that. I'm trimming them off anyway. Okay, last one. And then the bag is done. So there's no real magic to this. You just stitch along, really. You want to try and get pretty close to the circle ring or rectangle ring or whatever you use as well. And again, obviously rivets would be quicker. It's just not what I'm doing today. We do get a bit of a mess on the back, but once we trim it off, it'll be fine. Trim there, trim there. Look at that, heaps better. Super cute. Ta-da! So we're all done. We've got very cute floaty handles. And then if you want to, you can clip this in, pull the sides in just a little bit so that it's more kind of smaller tote, but still very, very cute. Alright guys, well that's it for this tutorial. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will speak to you next time. Bye bye.